Hey, welcome to the latest edition of First State Kopites. It's episode 33 of season 3. This is a podcast for Liverpool supporters in Delaware and friends of those Liverpool supporters. Thanks for joining us on your preferred platform. Joined today by Daz, and delighted to see Haitham back with us after quite a while. Today was the day when we were going to go. Well, anyway, we drew 2-2 at City today. It's what do we got? April 10th, 2022. We are still 1 point behind City as of this moment, with 7 games left. So we're going to talk a little bit about, or maybe a lot, about the City game. We're going to recap what happened with Benfica in the first leg of the Champions League quarter-final, and we'll maybe round it out with a couple of other topics. Maybe we'll talk about kind of guidelines for kids with their phones when Ronaldo is in your neighborhood. Maybe that will be a kind of a topic for later. Okay.
Too soon.
Why don't we get started? City. So I got to make a reference. I feel like every time we play them, I feel like it should be obligatory to mention the extra 200 million pounds they've spent on players in the last 4 years, more than us, and some of the dodgy sponsors allegedly that they have. Not buying a Nissan car anytime soon, because they were the only company I recognized on their list of sponsors they had today. So getting past that, sports washing, all of it. They've got a pretty good team. They've got a lot of money, and they've got a pretty good coach. 2-2. Let's be honest, we could have lost this one. I'll start with you, Haitham, having joined us first time in a while. What was your overall take on the game?
To be honest, I was so nervous. It was just, I don't know. I wasn't watching the play. I wasn't watching, tactics or anything like that. But it just seemed like a very entertaining match, to be honest. I just enjoyed every bit of it. I agree with you. They had better chances, possibly. The first half, it just seemed like, I don't even want to say we were sloppy. It happens. We've seen it over the past few months. I've seen us sloppier, if sloppy is the word to be used. The one thing, just a couple of things, I guess, that I noticed. So you guys know, in the past, I've been harsh on Trent and his defending. I thought he did pretty well today. I can't remember one time when Foden was actually, that effective during the match, which says a lot. He was on Trent's side.
Yeah.
I know the second goal, Jesus's goal, Trent was the one who was to cover him or whatever, but he was on his back, and that happens. It could have been anyone else, and it would have been a goal still. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with Trent. Second half, Mane, he, became Superman, and he was more involved, and obviously he scored the goal. So yeah, I in general, I enjoyed this match. In the past, I don't know, the past couple of years, maybe not 2020, but we were always trying to catch up to these guys, even though, they have the money that they spend, and the dodgy stuff that you started the podcast with to get to where they are right now. But I just feel like, it could have gone either way. And I really, this is what football is about to me, just enjoying it. And I've enjoyed this match today tremendously.
Yeah. I think, as you said in one of the conversations that we had kind of during the game, that we haven't actually played many great teams in a while, and that probably showed a little bit, I think, with maybe the nervousness at the start. Although, Sean would remind us here that the XG in the game, interestingly, even though I don't think they called some offsides that possibly should have been offside for City, was really close. I mean, it wasn't like they were based on the XG that they were kind of out of sight at any point. But what was your take? What was the most the thing that you would take away from today's game? Because I know, again, we talked for the podcast about, I think we can win this even from this position.
To be honest, at the risk of sounding like a bit of a ball bag, I feel like that was a 2-2 win for us, because I think all of us sitting here know how deflating it can be to drop points from winning positions twice. In fact, City at the beginning, before this ball was kicked, were 22-0-0 in wins, losses, and draws when in a winning position. And today that changed. And I think we have more tools at our disposal than they do. Don't get me wrong, they have, per what you were saying beforehand, the tools that they have are phenomenal tools. And once in the clear light of day, like, I sat back and I puffed out my cheeks and I thought, what a fucking time to be a Liverpool supporter, to be able to watch that. Like how fortunate are we? And there was points where I the first half, I think it was a tale of two halves, really. And I think I said that to you guys, and this isn't the first time we've seen this with Liverpool this season. Like, it takes us almost the full first 45 minutes to get to grips with something. And I think that Pep got his tactics spot on. The fact that De Bruyne was pulling that many strings tells you that, like, he done his homework enough to be able to find those pockets of space. That Sterling one was like, it was a pigeon deck of sides. Again, that was the Kevin De Bruyne floating into like a little a pocket of space and just given time to put that ball through. I think that it was definitely a tale of two halves. Like, the first half, so Haitham, I will disagree with you. I think that we so sloppy, you're correct, might not be the right word. I think that we allowed ourselves to be pushed into a particular scenario, and those are the types of traps that City was springing for us, and we made it very easy for them to do it. We didn't figure it out very quickly, and I think it took some of our better players 20 minutes to figure it out. It's the most rattled I've seen Van Dijk. Their first goal, I think Alisson yelled behind him, let it go, and there was no one around, and he could have ducked out of the way of that ball. He would have snaffled it. It was right after he'd made the save, and it was just a hurried header out, which you hadn't seen. I saw him pass the ball directly out of bounds and a ball to Andy Robertson, and that's something that you don't generally see from a Virgil van Dijk. So there was definitely nerves. I think, to your point, Paul, I think that we haven't really come up against a team where we've had to push the pedal into fourth gear. Yeah. And anything less than that today was you saw the result of. Like, City were well up for it. I think they got it just right. And no matter how we feel about who they are and how they've become the juggernaut that they are still a phenomenal football team. You're probably looking at number one and number two interchangeably the two best teams in Europe right now. And I don't feel churlish saying that. I think that if you sat most people down, they'd probably come to the same conclusion. And in terms of same conclusion, I think if you asked every Liverpool player what their performance was in the first half, and I think a lot of them, almost all of them, would tell you that they were substandards for those first 45. So I don't know if Klopp came in with blood and thunder. He just came in with a chalkboard or an iPad or whatever they use nowadays and just said, we can't do this again. And it was 2-2 within 3 minutes of the kickoff. It was like right at the beginning of the half.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect response to a very tepid first half. And I think, going back to what I said beforehand, I think anything less than a loss was not unsalvageable for us. Like, I think that potentially we have a more difficult run-in, but I think that those footsteps now will loom a lot larger for City, because I think they realize that they have to have a quest for zero defect now, because they know that there's not a good chance that we're going to drop many points. And if they do, we'll haul them in and we'll overtake them. So like I said, in the clearer light of day, once all the dust had settled, I really think that the advantage is with us.
Yeah. I, I, I do think there are opportunities going forward, which if they end up at 0-0 at 60 minutes against, say, Brighton or Wolves or Aston Villa. So I actually had a City fan on one of the Anfield Rap shows, and he talked about how if we get to 60 or 70, we start hurling the ball into the box from crosses, we're not getting points from those games. Because apparently that's what he said they've done for multiple games. So
yeah, it was Mooney is his name.
Yeah. We need those things to happen. Yeah. So I think there are a few different things I took away from the first half, actually, which is we seemed very rattled at the beginning of the game. It seemed like they were unusually trying to target our left side of the defense, which teams don't generally do. I do take Haitham's point, by the way, that when they did try to challenge Trent, Foden was pretty absent from that game, which does not necessarily support Sean's theory. Hello, Sean. That Foden's terrible, but it does say that Trent is, as someone who's standing next to me at the game today, say, "Wow, what a shit defender," he said jokingly, because he really wasn't. Right, it was pretty good. So, few different pieces there. Haitham, I know you listened to a different commentary to us because we were listening to Manchester City TV, courtesy of Arlo White and Lee Dixon. What else did you take away from the game? Maybe based on comments from people who weren't quite so pro Man City.
Yeah, well, I mean, that what was he, right back for Man U? I don't want to call his name.
Dixon?
No, Neville. He's talking about
Neville.
Oh, Neville.
You know what his dad's name is?
No.
Neville.
Wow. Anyways, he was on it, and he would say something. I don't want to say stupid, but just something that will make you like roll your eyes or whatever. Yeah. But in general, it's different. And Carragher was on there, and even Carragher himself, he would be like, "Oh, if City wants to win, they should do X, Y, Z." So it was a little bit more balanced than the clowns that we have here. And not all of them are clowns. I love the two Robbies, but and I'm not even sure who was on the US broadcast. But yeah, it was great. The one point that I wanted to go back to, something that has mentioned about what Klopp did during halftime, and I'm not sure if they showed it on NBC, but basically when they interviewed him right after the match, he said, "I just, because the interviewer asked him, 'What did you do during halftime?' And he said, 'I basically just showed them our first goal, and was like, if you guys do this, pass the ball like this, you're going to get something out of it.'" And he was like, "That's the only thing I did." And it worked. I mean, right out of the gates, they came in, passed the ball, boom, boom, and they scored. So so I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, goals were nice, weren't they? Both of them were really unlike the scruffy. I didn't mention this, but it was on my mind. Like, we've had 2 deflected De Bruyne goals this season, which could
both
prove
of my team.
Yeah.
He's catching up to Skirtle.
Feels wrong that a team with deflected goals are going to beat us. But anyway.
One thing that got me about, it's like you mentioned earlier, like how he jumped in the Carragher then jumped into the box with Micah Richards, and Micah Richards says it's harsh. The offsides was harsh. Like, I'm like, more than 11 millimeters, you ball bag.
Yeah.
What are you going to turn off the Hawkeye because it's a big game? Like,
that was
mentioned. I think the lead commentator mentioned that, or the host said, "Hey, what, you're just going to turn VAR off for big matches? It'll be a free for all."
Yeah. Well,
it's a good harsher than 11 millimeters, buddy.
But the Jesus goal as well was like they had 44 players offside. It's like the only one who wasn't was Jesus. There was something about that felt wrong, right? That somehow you got all these people distracting you who are not interfering with play somehow, and then this guy sneaks in on the by. I was troubled by that.
I'll tell you what, that ball anywhere else, Alisson saves it. That had to be like he put it in under the roof of the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one question to you guys. I don't know. For me, it didn't feel like like complete deja vu, but it kind of mirrored the game at Anfield. Anyways, we played like crap the first half at Anfield, and then we came out and we scored. Just from a total play, kind of perspective. I don't know if you noticed that too.
Well, we dropped points. It was a carbon copy, wasn't it? Did we go up? They tied it. We went up again and they tied it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of like a mirror image in the game started and ended with a De Bruyne deflected goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. He really is.
I think Mane scored first in the game at Anfield, and Mane scored obviously the equalizer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. After everyone was slagging him off, we're kind of a mizzy bunch of fans on Twitter, aren't we? Like, it's just such a shitty place to be. Like, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine neutrals are like, we must be like, oh my God, this is what we've been missing all this time, watching Burnley losing to Watford.
Yeah.
It's I think one of the Anfield Rap contributors years and years ago said it was like watching a fridge and a stove duke it out in the middle of a street.
Ocean City?
No. Like a Watford and a Burnley.
Oh God, yeah. Well, yeah, we can touch on this later, but the Everton United game that hit levels beneath what should be allowed in the Premier League, right? It seemed very poor. Let's one quick last thought about City, and then we'll talk about Benfica. And then we should probably talk about the week ahead as well, which I hadn't got on the agenda, but we should probably talk about that. If you had to change one thing, because obviously we're playing City again next weekend, and we may well play them again in the Champions League. That's if they get through, of course. If there's anything you change about the way we played, what would it be, Haitham?
Frankly, nothing. Nothing at all. I know people might, again, I don't look at Twitter anymore. People might have been, I don't know, a little negative about Konate's mistake and all of that stuff, but mistakes happen all the time. So, yep, just maybe the lineup, don't start Mane, Salah, start Firmino and Jota with Diaz. Maybe give Hendo a break. He looked, I don't know, I don't want to say he was tired, but he wasn't the fiery self that we're used to. And maybe he's tired. I think, I don't know if it was Sean who mentioned it, that, these guys have been playing so much football, since August, and obviously the older guys, Hendo, that play a lot. I'm sure that their conditions at this point, when it comes to stamina and all of that stuff, are not optimal. So maybe rest Hendo. I don't think even. We don't even have a B team nowadays. We have a minus maybe, or I don't know, a double A and A or something like that. So, just looking at the weekend, I don't know if it's okay to jump to next weekend. I think it's going to be the same type of match.
It's allowed.
Okay, I think it's going to be the same type of match. I predict it's going to go to penalties maybe. So just based on that, just rest as many people as you could, play whomever, your main guys, the spearheads, 10-15 minutes and call it a day. I would actually love to just see a draw, just keep the ball. Yeah.
So Daz, I'll go to you. Final word on City, and obviously we can bleed into next week because we've obviously got this weird sequence where we play the same team like twice, like with Benfica City, until we come to the biggest match of them all.
We're staying in Hotel California too.
We could be, but so any takeaways from today's game that you would take forward into games forward, particularly thinking about City next weekend?
I will disagree with Haitham a little bit. I don't think that Klopp would ever change that. He trusts that lineup probably more than any other lineup. I think the only piece that might have changed was Firmino for Jota. And to be honest, I think he got it spot on. If I was going to change anything, it would be to these guys to come out with a little bit more fire. And because there's a couple of times that we played ourselves into trouble. Ordinarily, like it might have been, like I said, because we haven't really played anyone that presses and counter presses just as well as City did today, that you thought you could get away with it. And we got nipped in like around our own 18-yard box a couple of times. And actually the first goal was a result of that, when we could have just cleared lines. So my one thing would have been is just to give it the hardest first 5 minutes that you could. Well, mind you, I don't think we touched the ball for the first 2.5 minutes. No. We didn't. They had the ball the entire time, but I just to be a little bit less cavalier and a little bit more incisive. And that sometimes I think that we fall prey to that quite a bit. It ebbs and flows. You can't play 100% football all the time. So you kind of have to pick your moments for ebb and flow. And I don't think we picked our moments in the first half, at least, very well. Second half, I believe that we did. I think we got it just right. So 60 to 80, I'd argue that we were in the ascendancy, and then we allowed them to regain a foothold, probably 77 towards and then onwards. That's when I felt like the nerves starting to jangle a little bit.
Yeah. So I think what I'm taking away from that is we might want to think differently about how our subs, because I think that made that their subs seem to help them more than ours helped us.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that as much as I love to watch Luis Diaz, and I think the guys in the Anfield Wrap in the post-match show said it took the guys that started 20, 25 minutes to get in, and you're giving these guys that are coming in like 15, 20 to get it right in a game that's at 175 miles an hour. It's going to be tougher for them to get. I think that Naby Keita doesn't. I like the way that he presses. He just doesn't seem to be as quite as effective in the same type of press that Jordan Henderson did. And I think that one of the main reasons we look better in the second half is I just peeped Jordan Henderson for 5 minutes just to see how he was pressing, and then coming back and making sure that Bernardo Silva was on the ball, that he didn't have time on the ball. He ran his socks off in the second half, and I believe that's probably one of the reasons that he tugged him. Or he might have said, look, at halftime, Jordan, I'm giving you another 20. Go run your bollocks into the dirt, and then I'll switch you out.
Yeah.
That's another guy who was missing today, Silva. He was.
Footmob gave him man of the match.
What?
Yeah.
Bernardo Silva?
Yes.
Man of this match?
With an 8.5. I will double check. I hadn't had anything to drink, so I'm almost positive. But don't hold me to it.
Okay. I did not watch the game back, but honestly, really?
Bernardo Silva, 8.2. Footmob's player of the match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe it was for the yellow card trip on Robertson. They saw that as laudable.
Positive contribution. Yeah. We should order him whatever they're drinking, because clearly
takes you to a whole different plane of reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's two players that did really well at Anfield, Foden and Silva. From what I remember, and just comparing, the two matches, today they were just ineffective.
Honestly, if they said De Bruyne, I'd be like, I could live with that. But
yeah,
Silva, really? Yeah. Although De Bruyne also should have had a yellow card for easily the worst challenge in the whole game. But that's another story. Anthony Taylor.
One thing I would change as well is I would change Fabinho not getting a head injury last week. I wonder if that affected him today. Yeah. I haven't seen him that off it since the first leg in the Real Madrid Champions League game when we played them in their training facility.
Yeah.
It looked like a lot was just passing him by. It's very unusual to see that.
I also think they targeted him a bit. They had someone sitting on him.
Mm-hmm. And that's not unusual though.
They're not the first team to do that. No, you're right. Watford tried the same. Yeah.
But it's Watford.
Yeah. Watford, it didn't work in the end, but it did seem to work today. So
I'm gonna be on Watford's tombstone, by the way. It didn't work in the end. How many managers have they had now? Like a graveside, like you can imagine being like one of those things where people tattoo their missus's names and their arm with a line through it, a line through it.
It is interesting, actually, that they haven't fired Hodgson yet, but oh, maybe this
They
time.
probably have. He just hasn't left.
Right. So I do want to talk a little bit about Benfica game in midweek, where we clearly went into this favorites. Well, the place I'd like to begin is, I don't know where you watched it, but I would have been interested in watching it without sound, because the commentary, and I think more than the commentary, it seems to have been quite universal, suggested Liverpool were very lucky to come away with a win. And in my estimation, like, Konate made a mistake. Wasn't very comfortable for a few minutes after that, but honestly, we could have won that 5, 6, 7. Am I wrong, Haitham?
Goalkeeper saved their bacons. Collective.
Yeah. Odysseus. He's not a Greek god, but he did beat somebody important in mythology.
Yeah.
The Cyclops, he blinded him.
There we go. That's obviously what happened with Mo's chance.
Then he shacked up with an enchantress called Circe. Maybe she helped him. I don't know.
She was on the line.
Yeah. I don't think the levels were just there was like a vast gap between the two. I don't know what I don't remember actually listening to the commentary. I might have
Good for you.
Muted it. I don't remember hearing that at all. So yeah, I mean it was kind of like a Porto match, to be honest. The Porto fixtures that we've had over the past few years, where we go there and we just annihilate, especially the first half. I think we took our foot off the gas in the second half, and that's when they scored. And again, like I was mentioning earlier, the mistake by Konate is just that. It's just a mistake. It's not something that he does, every match he plays or whatever. He still had a great match. I mean, it wasn't, to be honest, if people want to talk about easy matches and all of that stuff, I thought that was an easy match for us.
Yeah.
We scored the goals and when they scored their first at 2-1, people might have gotten nervous. I don't think the players showed any nervousness, and Diaz scored the third, and it was a wrap. So, and again, what I was talking about earlier about who to play in the second match, maybe I'm jumping ahead. But yeah, it's I would be very okay with a draw at Anfield. Yeah.
So Benfica at Anfield. Pretty sure Salah wants to play in this one because of the goals in Europe and the recognition and all that stuff. But I didn't want to let this pass without just a reference to Everton being in Europe for one moment. There was someone on our Facebook page posted a picture of like, oh, look, Liverpool are playing Everton. And they were very upset that my response was like, with usual results. No. So Daz, I'll go to you. Benfica. It could potentially be the least important match we play in the rest of the season, frankly, couldn't it?
One thing I will say is, just to go back to you talking about Konate, I thought his battle with Darwin Núñez was glorious. Mm-hmm. There was no quarter asked or given. They were at each other the entire game. You could see like a little bit of argy-bargy, like in a good old fashioned striker versus defender fashion. And I was all there for it. I tell you what, I'd have Darwin with us in a shot. I think that he'd be absolutely the type of striker that Klopp would like to work with. I kind of got a bit of Lewandowski vibes from him. I know that you can say, oh, it's only the Portuguese league, but the guy knows how to find the back of the net. Yeah. And he did so against us. It was a very cultured finish.
He scored a hat-trick this weekend.
Oh, wow.
But it's only the Portuguese league. And because his finish was incredibly cultured. Like he just looked up and put it in the side net.
Although to be fair to Allison, Canate doubled down on his mistake.
Just got in the way. No, so our terrible performance aside, I think that we deserved the win. Like Odysseus, like absolutely, like was a couple of huge saves that he made. They could easily have been 5 or 6. And that little wobble that we had, I think one thing that you have to realize, and you have to give credit to the fans too, is like they made it a cauldron. Like you could hear it on the TV, and like you say that players aren't immune to that. They're probably they're probably more affected by empty stadiums, yes, because you saw that happen to us, unless you're City or Spurs. I think that, or West Ham. But you have to give them credit where credit is due. Like they made it an uncomfortable experience for players in yellow, and
especially with the flagpole being thrown at Diaz. That was probably...
the way you look back to, he's like, mate, is this your first time?
lighters.
Yeah, lighters.
It did look like it was like, oh, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, you probably recognize him from a previous game. I've scored against you again. Whee! Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, I think that's kind of what I was saying before. It just feels like we never really got into fourth gear in that game either. Yeah. So I would like to have seen less energy conservation, like we talked about last week, than in today's game. But I feel like they put in as much as they felt like they needed to get the results. And I don't think 3-1 is a terrible indictment on how that game went or how we played. I think
so 538, which Sean has referenced a number of times, has us I think 95% to advance. It has City, I think it's 60, 80. So it's City and much less, which is kind of interesting. I think they obviously see the threat of Atletico much higher than the threat of Benfica.
It's the shithousery. It's not a threat. It's just the shithousery.
Oh, it's unbearable.
So Well, so let's.
My question is, let me ask you this: like, do you look Salah in the face and sit him for this match? And the reason I say it, and I said this to you guys before, he just seems to be a man bereft of something. It feels like he's just missing something. And I'm wondering if one game to get the hunger back, because he's one of those people that you generally see nothing really gets to him, but he seems to be flapped for someone that's traditionally been unflappable. I know that he's gone through like these little wobbles before, but this is the business end of the season. And I think that maybe 90 minutes on the bench, because I'm not going to say we have this in the bag, because that'd be a terrible thing to say, and it always comes back to bite me in the ass, because they'll put this podcast up on their dressing room wall and say, well, Darren from Baltimore says you guys are a bunch of assholes, and there's no chance you're going to win this fixture.
I'm not sure that's going to help them much.
Darren, no, that guy knows what he's talking about. But
so I'll let Haitham answer, but my quick response would be, I actually thought he was unlucky today. I thought his pass for Mane's goal was awesome, and there was a shot that got deflected, and the Manc officials decided it was a goal kick.
Yeah, it wasn't a handball, so it's got
that was really close to going in. So, and I don't think he played badly today. So I'm not on the page of like we should sit him, and I'm pretty sure he's got in his contract he's playing every game that matters for his image. So he may not play at Wembley next weekend, because that's not.
There's no chance you can sit him for that game. He will not sit for that.
Yeah, I think that's. But it's like what matters in terms of worldwide. So we have this really interesting thing going on, by the way, which is like if like people have started coming back to the pub, and our league games have tons of people coming out. Way less crowds for any of the other. So we had more people coming out today by far than the League Cup final. So I do think there's something about like what matters in the pantheon of things. I could see him not playing against City at Wembley, and we have 5 subs as well, which gives you an opportunity.
But the reason I say, sorry to cut you off, Haitham, but the reason I say maybe this one is because as important as this is, there's less peril. Well, whereas against City, like it's a completely level playing field. Whereas against Benfica to 538 or whoever it is they've got it tilted very much in our favor. So you could give him like the last 30 minutes.
You could. I'll let Haitham go, but my one quick response would be, I think Champions League and Salah are like, if he like playing against the last easy team we'll ever like to play against this season, gets a hat trick, like his season's kick-started, and he's also like front and center in terms of Champions League news.
Yeah. I agree with you, Paul. I think, just going back to what you were saying earlier, that Klopp has his team or whatever. I can see him at least playing the first half, maybe getting subbed in or subbed out in the second half. And the second thing I agree with you about, Paul, is the fact that he had a better match today than the past few ones. I don't know what it is. Again, each one of us, have their own opinion about it or whatever, but it just feels like he's trying to do too much. But today he was fast, and he actually he was looking for his teammates, and obviously the assist. And I'm not. I mean, he goes through droughts. I mean, we've seen him, doing that over the past few seasons as well. So I'm not worried. Again, just going back to the match, I think he needs to play. Let him play for a half hour, and maybe not half hour, but 45 first half, and sub him out. Again, his play, just like Mane, him and Mane, they played so many matches this season. And maybe that's, hey, this is not about you and your goal record and your image and all of that. It's about just, your durability and all of that stuff, because we have another big match on, next weekend. So, I think he should play a little, maybe, even coming off the bench in the second half or something.
Yeah.
Well, before Paul cuts in there, I don't think you read the fine print in the First State Kopites podcast. It says, it clearly stipulates that you are not allowed to agree with Paul twice in one sitting. It's there. But go and read it.
He can kick me off right now. It's just a button,
I think Daz is a bit confused. It's not written there. It's just that Sean disagrees with half the things I say. So that's what.
And he's not. He's banned for this episode. So.
Well, apparently he's out. Oh, yeah. So let's. But
you're not banned, Sean. I'm joking.
So talking of Sean, so I think I don't know if you got any more to say about this week, because it feels like it's a pale reflection of the week we just had. It's like the Benfica game. The bad things would have to happen for us not to win that tie, and City in the FA Cup. Yeah, we've got 5 subs in both of these games as well, which I think gives us a big advantage should anything be amiss. What I would like to do is just kind of close it out by doing a quick trawl of other stories out there. And I mean, a couple of things caught my eye this week. Like, not least was the fact that maybe Everton played 2 of the worst games of Premier League football in the history of the Premier League, with their loss of Burnley and their win over United, who looked bereft of anything. So feel free to talk about that. But we had a debate on our own kind of Signal chat, where there's a disagreement about who's the worst player and worst signing in the Premier League, and who's the worst player to play for Manchester United. And I don't want to lead the witness here, but the 2 main characters that were in the conversation about worst player plays for Man United were Wan-Bissaka or McTominay. So I'm going to go to you, Haitham. You can pick your topic. You can talk about something else if you want to, but I thought they were particularly interesting. How crap Everton are, and somehow they still managed to beat United, and who's the worst player, maybe the worst signing in the Premier League that plays for United.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Chelsea Real match, and It was such a weird match, but because Real had their problems going into this match. They got pummeled by Barca, which I don't really care. They're both shit.
Spanish teams.
Yeah, but obviously,
Real.
I was not rooting for the Blues or whatever the name is, just because so many things. Ukraine was on the top of my mind, anyways, and when Benzema scored the third, I was like, wow, this is karma, because Watford was not Watford.
Brentford.
Who was it? Brentford, yeah.
Brentford, yeah.
It was 4-1, and then Benzema happened. I don't know. I mean, this weekend, the Southampton pummeling annual match happened to be theirs, Chelsea's, just because they have that in them every season where they get pummeled by one team. And I'm not really sure. I mean, it was so easy for them. I watched the highlights, and I'm just like, this is a different team that what we've been seeing throughout the season. When it comes to Southampton, I'm just like, because their defense, is kind of solid, but it just seemed like every goal Chelsea scored, it was the easiest thing. It was like training, basically.
Werner scored twice, didn't he?
He did, and he could have scored two more. I mean, he hit the post three times.
Yeah.
3 times.
Three.
He hit the left post, right post, and then the upright. Whatever.
So he wins. He gets that's a free dinner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fries or chips.
But yeah, I'm not really sure how it's what Tuesday or how Tuesday is going to unfold for them. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get any result, just because it's the Bernabeu. And even if they score 1 or 2, I think just the Real crowd is capable of getting a goal or 2 for their team. So yeah, Benzema is just phenomenal. That's the only thing I'm going to say about them.
I thought the one thing that struck me about that was that Chelsea's XG was much higher than Real Madrid's. I mean, I know Benzema's goals were like, they weren't really, half of them were like low quality chances, but they clearly were close enough. Chelsea 3-1 seemed harsh, so harsh. I hate them. I don't want them to progress, but in the balance of the game, Real Madrid did not look that much better, despite all of the punditry that suggested that Chelsea were much inferior.
I thought, to be honest, again, I don't really listen to punditry a lot. I mean, I sometimes
Good for you.
Yeah, it goes, in through one ear and out the other. But I'm trying just to remember, when you mentioned this XG, I'm trying to remember their chances, and the only one that comes to mind, obviously, because it was a goal, is Havertz's goal, and maybe another header or something.
Lukaku missed one, yeah.
And Lukaku, yeah. I don't know. Anytime Lukaku is with the ball, for the past few months, I think XG should be just nullified or whatever, because it's not going to go in. But yeah,
seems a long time since whatever it was, September, and they were beating up on Arsenal, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, their coach, it was like, there's no, and knowing him, he can be, a little crass sometimes, but he's straightforward most of the time, I guess. And he said, there's no way we can win. So I'm just going to go by that. He said, we're not winning.
Is that Tuchel?
Yeah.
Is he divorcing his missus? Is that what I read?
I think so. Yeah. I think he's going
in a bad space.
Right.
It's like, he's listening to Morrissey. He's probably got the curtains drawn.
None of that might be true, but it sounds about right.
Or whatever the German version of Morrissey is. Maybe Bauhaus. I don't know. It's not German either, but
some right-wing band.
It'll be pretty interesting, who's going to end up buying that club, because I think it's going to affect their summer and what they're going to do with their players and all of that stuff.
Well,
more than anything,
it's going to be no one loaning them money for nothing, right? That's going to be a big thing.
right?
And the loan shark system they're operating also is like under threat.
Scrutiny, yeah.
We will see. We will see. So, Daz, I don't know which topic you want to go for. We could talk about Everton. We could talk about how great McTominay is over Wan-Bissaka. We can also talk about like standards for protecting your phone in case Ronaldo's in your neighborhood.
Well, here's my measure of who's better. If you put both of them in a barrel and push them over Niagara Falls, which one do you think survives?
Oh, it's got to be the Scot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm definitely going McTominay. So sorry, Wan-Bissaka, you're out. You're clearly the worst signing that they've ever had.
So I didn't hear much of the commentary today, apart from the bit that annoyed me. But Lee Dixon kept talking about how great Virgil van Dijk was. He talked about his positioning and never needing to go to ground, and he used Wan-Bissaka as the reference point.
Yeah,
like needing to slide tackle all the time and not being in the right space. I think generally professionals regard Wan-Bissaka as being 50 million too much for what they should have paid. Well, maybe 45.
Speaking of that Van Dijk, I was just to watch him. Excuse me, little man. You don't want this ball. Just like to steer him off the ball, and then just toe poke it ever so slowly, like to whoever was right next to him. I forget who it was. It's like
Sterling. It was Sterling. Yeah, it was like it almost looked like
who he passed the ball to. He's like, excuse me, little man. Just moved him aside. Like I'll be taking that. That's not yours.
It did almost look like Sterling was like, "Oh, we're in on goal. Oh, it's him. Oh, okay."
There's nothing better in life to watch. Someone's like, "Yeah, oh fuck, it's Virgil van fucking Dijk. I don't have a fucking chance."
Yeah,
you can just see the life drain from their eyes and the glee, like. What? Even Matip was giving people no change today as well. I think that he quietly had a very, very good game. I know that we've already talked about the City game, but sometimes these things come in swings and roundabouts, and the loss of the bourbon is starting to take effect.
Virgil, I thought, had some great moments today. Like the one where he forced, like Jesus had a shot when basically Van Dijk made sure he had no other option than to shoot, and like he's shooting at Allison from like this bit of the goal.
Yeah.
Like, sorry if you're listening. It's like very narrow gap. Wasn't going in. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about Wan-Bissaka, was what's the name? The Portuguese guy that has been or had been starting.
Dalot.
Yeah. Was he injured or something?
I gotta think. Well, I don't know what Ragnick's up to, because honestly, you wouldn't play Ronaldo or Wan-Bissaka if you had any good alternatives, would you? But it feels like he's obliged to play them.
Contractual obligations, maybe.
Dalot is I think offensively is much better than Wan-Bissaka. So that was weird, especially playing against Everton. I mean, you're not really. I mean, thinking about it, you have what's his name, the bird on the left hand side.
The pigeon.
Yeah, the pigeon. So maybe
so overrated. He is so overrated.
He doesn't believe that at all.
Richarlison. Oh my god! Like I watch all their games now because I'm like I'm hoping half of me's hoping they lose and half of me's like, oh, my sister's a big fan. Oh.
They're not going to go down, by the way. I think Burnley has proved by losing to Watford that they deserve to go down.
Yeah. I think you're right, but that doesn't make Everton good. Right?
No.
But, yeah. And Richarlison, if they can get 50 million for him, they should right away.
Well, the DVD of his goal and being the best goal ever against Liverpool's inbound, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, right. The one without the crowds, right?
Yeah.
So that begs the big question of if Everton win at Anfield and there's no crowd, does it really count?
Sorry, Hathi, we totally cut you off and went tangential.
No, not at all. This is gold. Yeah, I just speaking of Everton, I'm wondering what's going to happen with the points, the possible points deduction, and all of that stuff. I don't know if you guys think that's going to happen. I know we were talking about McTominay and Wan-Bissaka, but again, another tangent. Do you think it's going to happen where they're going to get deducted points in the summer and maybe get, I don't know, pushed to what is it, League One or whatever?
Oh, Everton?
Yeah.
Oh, I think if
New
they go
country?
down, I think the implications are bad. But I think the Premier League has an interest in them staying up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about their financial woes.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. They've lost so much money. But they seem to have given them a pass, like because of COVID. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think it could also be kind of that double jeopardy thing because Usmanov was part of that. So they might be like, well, you had some scumbag Russian and we know about that. So yeah, let it balance out. I think we discussed this a couple of weeks ago. I know that there's a lot of people that are very angry about Everton and they would like to see them go down. In my heart of hearts, like I'd laugh about it for 20 minutes, but I'd also be sad because that's 6 points a season, and it's also like
yeah.
It's like they are literally our nearest rivals. Like you could fling a bag of poo down the hill and hit their stadium, which I'm sure someone's probably done. But I think that it's in terms of, like you said, Paul, just to back you up there. So anytime I'm agreeing with you, I get one. Is that
Sean, where are you, Sean?
I think it's that the Premier League has a vested interest in keeping them around, and Burnley seems to believe that too because they're just coughing up points to the worst team in the league.
Yeah. But after today, Burnley look very precarious, right? Because they're not going to play many teams as bad as Everton. Oh. Apparently. Okay.
Well, we didn't even talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. Like,
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's give one last go on the phone breaker.
if you hit my kid, I don't give a flying fuck who you are. I'm over the dashes and it's fists. It's hands. And I think it was the mother was there, wasn't it? I think it was the mom was with the kid. And I'm sure they were giving him all kinds and all sorts, but you're a professional footballer. Not that abuse is great necessarily, but if it's from a child, like weather that, temper that a little bit. I know you hobbled off, you were in pain. I saw the wound on your leg. It sucks. You just lost to this team that you've probably lost to all season. But like temper that. You don't smack a kid anywhere. Like you have children of your own. Like how would you feel if some professional footballer just took a swipe at one of your progeny? Like it's hands. I'm sorry. Like I'm just have this. I know, like I said, like you'd probably get pummeled half to death, but it'd be worth it just to get one proper nod in, not first just a quick one.
Well, I do think it's significant that his apology came first, right? That the story wasn't fully out there and he was apologizing. So I think whoever's doing his public relations, I'm sure there's hundreds of them involved, was trying to like damp it down. I guess we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, it's like some things are just like crest into inexcusable no matter what your apology is. And like for me, that like kids don't fuck with kids. Period. Like they're not fully formed human beings yet. They don't get like a lot of things, but and you can be disappointed. Like you don't take a swing at kids. Well, not if they're on your own, I guess.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have anything more on the Ronaldo gate, Haitham, but if you do, then hey.
No, I just I compare it to what happened at the Oscars. So the offender was banned for the Oscars for 10 years. I wonder if the Premier League is going to do something similar.
Oh, I'm disappointed now. That might mean he's not going to play against us. Oh no. Because
after the game against us.
That has a big advantage, right? If he's playing, I think. Okay, I'm going to regret saying that. We should probably wrap it up, right? Haitham, it was so great to see you after such a long time. Daz, thank you very much. Loving the sweatshirt. Okay, we'll be back next week after deja vu of Benfica and City in the FA Cup. Thanks, Haitham. Thanks, Daz. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Follow us on Twitter. We only tweet and retweet from sources that are credible, or we think are credible, which we definitely did this week, unlike last week.